A billionaire's charm hides a dark secret. When a woman discovers the truth, her world shatters and his empire starts to crumble. He promised her the world, but behind closed doors, betrayal ran deep. Now, secrets unravel and hearts are left broken. It was a night like any other in the city of Los Angeles, but for Isabella "Izzy" James, this evening would mark the beginning of a journey that would change everything. The opulent lights of the city skyline sparkled like diamonds as her black limousine drove through the glittering streets, and the air was thick with anticipation. As she gazed out the window, her mind raced, consumed by the swirling thoughts of the man she was about to meet. She had never been one to believe in fairy tales, but when she met Victor Bennett, billionaire, entrepreneur, and philanthropist, there was something about him that made her question everything she'd ever known about love and trust. Handsome, intelligent, and charismatic, Victor was everything she had ever dreamed of. But it wasn't just his looks or his wealth that captivated her. It was his charm, the way he made her feel like the most important person in the room. Their story had begun months earlier at an exclusive gala in the heart of downtown Los Angeles. Isabella had never imagined herself mingling with the wealthy elite, but there she was, surrounded by the city's top influencers, celebrities, and moguls. She had only come as a plus one to her friend Emily, who was a rising star in the fashion industry. It was at that moment that she met Victor Bennett. Victor had approached her as she stood by the bar, nervously nursing a glass of champagne. He'd made small talk at first, asking her opinion on the event, complimenting her dress, and then, almost effortlessly, they slipped into a deeper conversation. Within moments, she felt an inexplicable connection. His words were like silk, and his eyes, intense and penetrating, seemed to know her better than anyone else. It was a night of laughter, champagne, and stolen glances, but it wasn't until Victor whispered in her ear, asking for her number, that she realized something was different. Over the weeks that followed, their relationship blossomed. Victor took her to extravagant dinners at Michelin-starred restaurants, on private yacht cruises, and to the most exclusive events in the city. For the first time in her life, Isabella felt like she was living in a dream. The world seemed to open up to her as Victor lavished her with attention, his affection apparent in every gesture. He was everything she'd wanted and more. But as the weeks turned into months, Isabella began to notice subtle changes. Victor's schedule became more erratic, and his once unshakable attention to her seemed to wane. She would call him, and sometimes he wouldn't pick up. Messages went unanswered for hours, and he would often show up late to their meetings, distracted and distant. It was only after one particularly strained evening, where Victor had been unusually curt with her at dinner, that she began to wonder if something was wrong. She decided to confront him. One evening, after a late-night dinner at his penthouse, she asked, "Victor, what's going on? You've been different lately." Victor paused, his jaw tightening. He looked away for a moment, as if trying to find the right words. Finally, he spoke, his voice cold. "You're imagining things, Izzy. There's nothing wrong." But Isabella wasn't convinced. She had grown up learning to trust her instincts, and they were telling her that something was off. It wasn't long before her suspicions grew into an obsession. She started following him, discreetly tracking his movements. What she discovered shook her to the core. One evening, after a particularly long meeting with business partners, Victor had slipped away from his office under the cover of darkness. Isabella, who had been watching from a distance, followed him. He drove to a secluded part of town, parking outside an old building. She waited for what felt like hours before she saw a woman exit the building, a woman Isabella didn't recognize. The woman was beautiful, her hair cascading down her back in soft waves, her laugh ringing out as she kissed Victor on the cheek before they parted ways. Isabella felt her heart shatter as the pieces of the puzzle fell into place. Victor had been seeing someone else. The next day, she confronted him again, her voice trembling with emotion. "Who is she, Victor?" she demanded. "Who is the woman I saw you with last night?" Victor's face turned pale, but he didn't deny it. Instead, he looked at her with a mixture of guilt and indifference. "Her name is Natalie," he confessed. "She's someone from my past." Isabella's heart sank. "What does that mean, Victor? What about me?" Victor's eyes softened, but there was no warmth in them. "I never meant to hurt you, Izzy. I've been juggling a lot, and I didn't know how to tell you the truth. Natalie and we've been together for years, but what we have, it was never supposed to get serious." The words felt like a slap across her face. All the dreams she had built in her head, the promises he had whispered to her in the dark, were nothing but lies. Victor had deceived her, used her as a distraction from his real life. Isabella stood frozen, the world around her crumbling. She had loved him, believed in him, and he had shattered her trust in the most devastating way possible. But that wasn't the end of it. Over the next few weeks, the truth continued to unravel. Isabella discovered that Victor's business empire, which she had admired from a distance, was built on lies and deception. His wealth, his power, and his status were all built on shady deals, backroom negotiations, and a network of carefully crafted falsehoods. The woman he had been seeing, Natalie, was not just someone from his past. She was his fiancée, a fact he had conveniently left out when he charmed Isabella into his world. The betrayal was not just emotional. It was personal, professional, and public. As the media caught wind of the scandal, Victor's carefully crafted persona began to crumble. His businesses were investigated, his reputation tarnished, and the empire he had built started to show cracks. But for Isabella, the hardest part was accepting that she had been a pawn in his game. She had been nothing more than a distraction, a trophy to flaunt in front of the world while he secretly carried on with his real life. Despite the pain and heartbreak, Isabella found herself growing stronger. She refused to let Victor's lies define her. She left Los Angeles and moved back to her hometown, where she could heal and rediscover herself. With time, she built a new life, one grounded in honesty, integrity, and self-respect. As for Victor, he was left alone, his empire crumbling around him. The woman he had once thought he could control now stood free, no longer bound by the chains of his deceit. The love affair he had so carefully orchestrated had come to an abrupt and heartbreaking end. And while Victor may have been the one who lost everything, it was Isabella who found her true strength in the end. The secrets had been revealed, the hearts shattered, but she emerged from it all stronger and wiser. If you enjoyed this story and want to see more, like, share, and subscribe to the channel.